Hello, this is Tony Hiller from RealClimateScience.com. In 1969, the United Nations Secretary General said we only had 10 years to save the planet. He said that if we don't do that, the problems we're facing will go beyond our capacity to control. And then 20 years later, Noel Brown, director of the New York office of the United Nations Environment Program, said governments have a 10-year window of opportunity to solve the greenhouse effect before it goes beyond human control. It's interesting to me how he used exactly the same language as his predecessor from 20 years earlier. In 1970, Paul Ehrlich, who is considered a leading environmental expert, said, "The oceans will be dead as Lake Erie in less than a decade. America will be subject to water rationing by 1974 and food rationing by 1980. And he said the only way to prevent this was by poisoning people to involuntarily sterilize them. He wanted to poison the food and water supply. In 1991, the Club of Rome wrote this: "In searching for a new enemy to unite us, we came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine, and the like would fit the bill." And they said the real enemy was humanity. 2006 was 35 years after the original 10-year deadline from the United Nations. And Al Gore said in 2006 that unless drastic measures to reduce greenhouse gases are taken within the next 10 years, the world will reach a point of no return. 30 years ago, Prince Charles said that we have to address global warming now, not in 10 or 20 years. Then in 2009, he said we only have 8 years to save the planet from global warming. 4 years ago, Greta Thunberg tweeted this: "The Prince of Wales has warned global leaders they have 18 critical months to solve climate change and restore the balance of nature, ensuring the survival of the human race." And then 5.5 years ago, Greta tweeted this: "A top climate scientist is warning that climate change will wipe out all of humanity unless we stop using fossil fuels over the next 5 years. And meanwhile, back in the real world, China is having record cold. China is greatly increasing their use of coal in order to keep their population warm and alive. And the International Energy Agency says global coal use will reach a record high this year. It seems like we're doing okay considering that experts said we would run out of water and food 50 years ago. But this is the statement that's really interesting to me from the Club of Rome in 1991. In searching for a new enemy to unite us, we came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine, and the like would fit the bill." What's driving the fear-mongering about global warming doesn't sound much like science to me. Science is not about parroting slogans or blind belief in authority. Toto has been pulling back the curtain on the climate scam for more than 15 years. You can visit him and his family on the web at realclimatescience.com.